Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. We are back again today, and today we're specifically going to be talking about the United States Senate election in Nebraska, or in other words, down ballot elections in Nebraska. We got a special election in Nebraska to talk about, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So we are specifically going to be talking about the regular U.S. Senate election, which actually was very unique, and in fact, it seems that Democrats enjoy a better chance of winning in Nebraska if they hire an independent like Dan Osborne. Osborne ran under this labor union, pro-union, working class sort of said, I would say, campaign. And we got to remember, Nebraska, historically, very progressive state, very populistic state. If you go back into the 1890s, Omaha, a huge stronghold for progressives and populists and labor unions, still is today. But of course, when Nebraska gets more conservative later on in the 20th century, it eventually Omaha, Douglas County became a Republican stronghold. And just until recently, Omaha has defected to the Democratic Party more. But you'll see here this race was seemingly to be close despite having no real Democrat in this race. You would absolutely think that Deb Fischer would absolutely sweep the state of Nebraska, but ultimately, history has told us in the 2022 race. Oh shoot! Dang. Okay. Yeah, I got this. I accidentally exited out. But yeah, we'll get back to that later on. But history has told us in recent elections, like the United States Senate election in Utah, you would ideally think it would be a close race. And ideally you would expect and say, hey, you know what? You got a presidential election candidate running in that election. Why wouldn't he do so? Why would the Republican Senator Mike Lee do good? In other words, there's of course Evan McMullin, and you'll see it wasn't just that. McMullin, of course, was the best ever. Yeah, he said here this was the first Senate election in Utah history in which there was no Democratic nominee. Lee's performance was the worst for a Republican in a Utah U.S. Senate election since 1974, while McMullin was the best ever for an independent in a Utah U.S. Senate race, and the best for a non-Republican since 1976. Ideally, in my case, Evan McMullin, people like him. He is, of course, a former Republican, but then turned independent in 2016. I don't know if he is, of course. Okay, yeah, he is an anti-Trumper. Of course, he is, of course, a part of the Never Trump movement. And overall, he's this huge neocon. Big neocon. He's this Liz Cheney. I don't know if he endorsed what's her name? Kamala Harris. But I prove he obviously did not support Trump. But this is an example on how an independent candidate will do, even with an incumbent senator. Another example would be the United States House of Representatives election that same year in North Dakota. I said Senate. Shoot. House of Representatives. Okay, we're going to the North Dakota page for 2024. We'll talk about that later on, though. But yes, you'll see Kelly Armstrong, now the governor-elect. Yes, he pulled a similar performance. This time he carried Cass County, which holds Fargo, North Dakota. You'll see Kara Mund, who is, of course, ran on the popularity of being Queen Miss North Dakota, or Miss North Dakota, and, of course, Miss America said TV show. She managed to, of course, she was a Republican, recently became Republican. She tried to run in the Republican primary. She failed, obviously. But yeah, she was originally an independent, aligned with the Democratic NPL, and of course rallied all these independent votes. We're seeing the exact same thing when it comes to the North Dakota race, of the Nebraska races in the said election there. So let's take a look at the said election. You'll see interesting results. You'll see, and ultimately, Deb Fischer came out short. She finished short, 53%. It was frustrating. There was actually a time where this race was becoming very tight, and then actually Dan Osborne was leading pretty well in these polls, and I actually thought he could actually win. But of course, fundraising clearly tells us a different story. Let's take a look at that race here. So, yes, here's that Nebraska race here. Fundraising, as I always keep saying, tells us a different story. You'll see very close, very tight, but Deb Fischer was raising more money. Yes, polls and daily elections daily, they were saying it was going to be a tight race there also, but Fischer was leading by the end of the night by 1.6. But you'll see there was a time that it was extremely tight. Of course, there was some margin of error separating the two. But by the late October, you'll see Fischer has retaken her lead of 51 to 44%. That's probably a great pull from Torchlight Strategies. And really, this race hasn't really been looked at by a lot of conservatives. They kind of had a great feeling that, of course, Deb Fischer would win the said race, as she has clearly in 2018, finished out strong. But of course, running in by an independent who is nonpartisan, of course, and also bipartisan, not really having a political label, but he did try to vocally whistleblow to all these left-wing labor unions to support him, and that's what ended up happening. But yes, you'll see unionized counties. Thurston County, I wouldn't say Thurston County is a unionized county. This is, of course, a Native American county, and originally went to now the Republicans for, I would say, ideally, for 3 election cycles now. But this used to be a Democrat stronghold. Thurston County voted for Obama. But there's also Sarpy County, influenced by the Omaha Metro. It's what gives Republicans a chance to a point of winning that second congressional district. And you'll see here fascinating results, because the second district, the first district right here, actually went to Osborne, and which ultimately vocalizes how close and how this said race can be, how competitive Omaha and Nebraska can be. I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't because of Sarpy. It was because of Lancaster County, because Lancaster County is right here in this first district, and they can win it. Democrats can win the first district if they really push turnout in Lincoln, and they really stop these Republicans. And it was also these Republicans over here, like, it was pretty close, like Dodge County, it's more lighter compared to what the colors are right here. As you know, Pete Ricketts easily carried that first district there also. So I think that does explain a lot. This is obviously interesting said results when it comes to the Senate race in the said Nebraska election. But let's go ahead and jump to the United States special election in Nebraska. You'll see, of course, Pete Ricketts, very popular and beloved governor throughout his said career. There was a time where Lancaster County was actually projected to go to Pete Ricketts until the remaining votes came in. But yes, in fact, Pete Ricketts came very close in Lincoln. You'll see 49.5. He lost the county, but he was very close in flipping that. He did pretty good in Douglas County, where Omaha is, 53% to 42%. And I want to believe that it's also the case. Did Pete Ricketts win the second district? I think he won the second district of where Omaha is. Yes, he won. I knew it. That second district went to Pete Ricketts. 50.4 to 49.6, a 0.7% buffer of a margin. Don Bacon won re-election there pretty good when it comes to that. But you'll see, apparently, we knew this race, this Nebraska Senate race, was not in jeopardy. Pete Ricketts, former governor of Nebraska. You'll see he's carried Omaha, Douglas County in the past. while losing Thurston County and some other counties there also. He's clearly carried those counties. Yeah, Pete Ricketts ran against Ben Nelson in 2006. Didn't work out in his favor, but once he was actually known by the public, people fell in love with him, which is amazing. But it's sad that he couldn't carry Lancaster, because if he had carried Lancaster County, I believe in 2024, if he had kept Lancaster County, he would have carried every county in Nebraska in his political history. But so far in his whole entire political career, he's carried every county except for Lancaster. What it seems like right now, because I don't think he's ran for Attorney General or something like that. He's a part of the sports. Oh yeah, he owned Chicago Cubs and major baseball league there, but this is clearly what it's looking like right now. But yeah, obviously, very good electoral history and electoral record from there. But yes, you'll see key wins, obviously. It said here that Ricketts outperformed other Republicans who faced contested statewide elections in this election cycle. Frustrating that they were, of course, contest. I mean, it makes it sound like they're didn't stand a chance, but obviously Rick Scott won pretty easily. But it seems Pete Ricketts, they love him and admire him in that state of Nebraska. So I believe he's obviously going to have a great time over there. Let's go ahead and see if there's any more down ballot races. I doubt that is the case, but we can always take a look. No judicial races, it seems. We just have that service commission. I think that is it. Of course, we will touch base on those Nebraska down ballot, that ballot measure races later on. But what do you guys think in regards to our video and analysis today? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.